Alright, what's going on, guys? This episode is going to be similar to episode 1, where we talk about where you can save money with your resource usage, but instead of focusing on opting out of resource usage or being very conservative with your resources, we're going to focus on how you can get the most out of your money with the resources that you have. So right now we have a lot of popular types of food in our inventory, and we're gonna kind of go over why you should use which. So the most popular foods are gonna be Saradomin brews and blubbers. This is largely because these don't drain adrenaline. Sarah brews do drain your stats, but this is offset by overloads because your overloads will reboost every 6 seconds. So this, if you do drink a Saradomin brew, your stats will only be lowered for a couple seconds. So these are as popular as they are because they don't drain adrenaline, which means if you need to eat in the middle of a rotation that's really adrenaline intensive, then you don't have to worry about food. So for instance, we're going to do a living death rotation. So we'll do this, use skulls, use basic attack, use finger of death, use basic attack, use basic attack, maybe we'll use this, and then we'll eat, and now we want to cast skulls, but we spent 10 adrenaline, so we just don't have skulls up. And now we have to use an extra ability to use our skulls, and if we would have done that, we would have cast our third skulls right as our living death is ending, which means we don't get the cooldown reduction on our skulls. So you end up losing an insane amount of damage by not using lossless food. So that's the main reason why food that doesn't drain adrenaline is as popular as it is, because it can really mess up your rotations by not having that, or by not having the adrenaline. So that's why these are so popular. So the other reason why they're so popular is because you can combo eat with them. Now, combo eating just means if you click them in a row, you get to heal from them. And then brews have different variants. So you have regular brews, which is just 4 doses, which are 15k. Brew flasks, which are 43k, so 3 times the price for 50% more. And then super brews, which instead of healing 1,000 per dose, it heals 300 per dose, is 3 times the price of a brew flask. So you have to imagine you need to be making a lot of money in order for super brews to be worth it. Now, super brews do heal a lot more. Like, that can't be understated. They do heal a lot more. But you need to be aware of how much money you're spending in order for something like a super brew to be worth it. Generally speaking, the only boss that's going to be giving you money like that, where you can be slamming super brews, is really high in raid Zamorak, like 2k plus Zamorak. But if you're watching this guide, you're probably not doing 2k plus Zamorak. So yeah, I highly advise against doing this. So to illustrate where our heals are, I'm gonna drain my health again. So to illustrate what kind of heals we're going to be getting, for our combo eats, we have sharks, which are 2k, or they heal 2,000 HP, and they're 436. Sailfish heal 2,400 HP, so 400 more, or 20% more, and it's almost 8 times the price. And then sailfish soup heals 2,600, so it heals 30% more than sharks, and it's like 60 times the price. So a combo eat with a shark, you can shark, blubber, regular brew all in one tick. So each dose of brew is worth about 2.5k. Each bite of blubber is worth about 4k. And then a shark is, 400, so we'll say it's 7k. So a combo eat here is 3750, which is pretty good. Like, all that, if you click it faster, you can do it all in one tick. So that costs 7k for a 3750 one-tick heal. Now, if you want to max out, or like, let's say you want to do a medium end setup, so with this is like 7k per dose. This is still the 4k, and then sailfish are 3k. So this is 14k, so it's double the price, and you're only healing 400 more. So like it's a good heal, but you're paying literally double the price for 400 health. And then finally, if you want to use the most expensive food, you're healing 900 more than the base amount. So you're going to be healing 4950 or 4650, sorry. Oh, actually, yeah, 4650. And then you're spending 22k plus 4k plus 26k, so you're spending 50k. So this is more than 3 times the price of the mid-tier setup and 7 or 8 times the price of the low-tier setup for 1,000 more health. Which, again, these aren't bad amounts of like healing. Like 1,000 more or 900 more health is a pretty meaningfully better heal. The issue is, why are you combo eating? Usually you're combo eating to tank a big hit. If you're that close to tanking a big hit, generally you have a little bit more time to like prepare for it. So in my experience, it's very rare where you need to surprise combo eat in order to get like a full heal. Because you could surprise combo eat twice with super brews and it's basically a 10k heal. The question is, are there instances where you need to do that, where a 7,500 heal isn't gonna suffice? In my opinion, pretty much no. So because of that, sticking to regular brews with blubbers and sharks is going to be the best type of food for your money for the majority of players. Personally, I use brew flasks because it just gives you a lot more room to work with. So, well, not a lot more room, but like meaningfully more room, especially at places like Zuk where your inventory is pretty limited. Where, because these are 3 dose or these are 6 dose and blubbers are 3 dose basically, you can just do 1 brew for 2 blubbers. So this takes up 12 inventory spots, and each blubber heals a total of 2250. So this is 18k heals and blubbers. This is 12k and 24k heals. So this is 42k HP in 12 inventory spots. If you were to use Saradomin brews, it would take up 2 more inventory slots for the same amount of healing. You are saving quite a bit of money, but there are times where those 2 inventory spots are going to matter a lot. And then if you're bringing even more blubbers, like, your inventory space gets that much more restricted, right? So, personally, I think that brew flasks with blubbers is a decent middle ground, but I am also, like, pretty wealthy. So if you don't have money like that, brew 4s with blubbers is gonna be really good. It's very rare that you can, like, if you know how to do a boss, this amount of food isn't good enough. So the other type of food we have is Guthix Rests. These are extremely expensive. These are twice the price of Saradomin brews, or almost twice the price. Importantly, they also only heal half. Importantly, they only it doesn't drain any of your stats. This is going to be notable at places like Karapak, at places like Virago, and those are the only 2 places I can think of off the top of my head. But places where, 1, you're not using necromancy, and 2, you don't have 100% accuracy. Because this doesn't drain your stats, there are times where I've done ranged Karapak using Saradomin brews, where the 2 to 3 seconds before your overloads will reboost, you'll miss because you don't have 100% accuracy. So at place Ambassador's another one. So at these places, using Guthix rests are worth consideration, but you get a lot less healing per inventory slot, and they're more expensive. And with the advent of necromancy and splashing not being an issue anymore, there's not really a great place to use these outside of you don't want to take a very slight damage reduction because your stats are lowered a little bit. So that's the last major type of food. Now let's get into prayer. So our options are regular prayer pots, which for me at 99 prayer is 317. Super restores, which restore 10 more prayer and restore negative stat changes across the board and restore summoning points. Summoning points are just for summoning your familiar. Generally speaking, I've never had this hit 0 while I was bossing, so like that doesn't really matter. But restoring all of your stats is good if for whatever reasons your overloads ran out and you're out of doses. Again, this doesn't really happen, but it's not nothing. Yeah, so it just restores 10 more points and all of your stats. And then we have Super Restore Flasks. So prayer pots are almost 10k. Super Restores, which are strictly better, are 3k. And then Super Restore Flasks, which is 1.5 times the price of a Super Restore, is almost 8 times the price, or it's more than 8 times the price. So again, the same thing with brews. Unless you're really, really tight on inventory space, one, prayer potions are completely worthless. There's no reason to ever use these for the purpose of restoring prayer, unless you're using it to like combine into another potion. It's the only time it's ever worth it. And then Super Restore Flasks are only going to be worth it if your inventory space is that limited. But generally speaking, I haven't run into opportunities or haven't run into bosses where my inventory space was that limited where I've used all of my super restores and I'm still running out of prayer. Generally, that's pretty rare that happens. Finally, we're going to go over adrenaline restores. So I don't use adrenaline renewals because they are ungodly expensive. These enhanced replenishments cost 34k to make roughly with all of the adrenaline boosts. These are going to be the most cost efficient use of your adrenaline. So if you wanted to get the most efficient adrenaline restore potion, enhanced replenishments are 1 GP more expensive than Adren Pots 4. And then it also has the Super Restore element added, which isn't nothing. There are boss fights where this has been enough prayer for me, just having an enhanced replenishment and then like a what's the thing I use? An Ancient Elven Ritual Shard. Which this is basically a slightly better Super Restore with 5-minute cooldown. These are pretty expensive. They're 12 mil, but it will eventually pay for itself. So at some point, this is going to have given you 12 mil worth of prayer. Using super restores as the math, you'd basically need to run through 4,000 full super restores. So you need to use 16,000 doses. That sounds like a really extreme amount, but when you consider bosses like Raksha, where you're resetting the cooldown between kills, and bosses like Karapak, where you're resetting the cooldown between kills, this will pay for itself eventually. Mine has already paid for itself. I've had it for like a year and a half. So it's a very long-term investment for it to pay for itself, but it is worth it. But getting back to adrenaline, so this is the cheapest adrenaline per point for your money, and it gives the second most adrenaline at 30%. If you wanted to use adrenaline renewal potions, not flasks, just potions, it is almost 3 times the price for 10 more adrenaline. Generally speaking, unless you're doing speed kills, you're never gonna need that much adrenaline. Like, I've done a lot of kills. I've done a lot of kills quickly. I've never felt the need for the 10 extra adrenaline from Adrenaline Renewal, especially at that price point. For 74k for 4 doses versus 34k for 6 doses, it's not even close in my mind. You'll save so much money by using enhanced replenishments versus using Adrenaline Renewals. Now, if you're rich or if you're doing bosses that pay super well, again, like Zamorak, like Solak, like Virago, that have guaranteed drops that will give you a lot of money, then it's worth using. Besides those places, I highly advise against using it. But yeah, this one was a little bit longer than some of the other videos I do, and there wasn't really any gameplay. But I think for players who don't have a lot of money, picking cheaper resources will save you so much money in the long run. In the last video, we talked about how, or not in the last video, but in the first video of the series, we talked about how you can save 6 mil an hour by using less food. You can save even more than that by using cheaper food. Like, especially at bosses where you have to use food, right? Like, if you have to use like 2 brew flasks and 4 blubbers, like, this is how much money you're saving. Let's say you're doing Ratio. So instead of spending 137k per kill, you're spending 96k per kill. If you're doing 10, or if you're doing 20 kills an hour, 25 kills an hour, you're saving 40k a kill. So this ends up being you saving $1 mil an hour over what you would be spending otherwise. That's something to think about. The same thing is true with super restores. If you're using, 3 super restore 4s per hour because you're resetting between kills, you're talking about spending 9k versus 52k. All of this adds up. If you're eating 10 sailfish an hour versus 10 sharks, we're talking about 30k versus 4.5k. So all of the money adds up, and if you're doing bosses and you're still learning, the worst thing that you can do is be using expensive materials and bleeding money. Because I have a lot of friends who, when they're learning Ratio, they're going in with 5 super brews and 10 blubbers and then 2 sailfish soup for combo eats. And then they're going through all their food and still dying. And it's like, okay, you just spent 833k to not get the kill anyways. Which, again, it's not to say that, you don't use all this food. But the reality is, if you're using this much food on any boss and still not getting the kill, you're probably doing something wrong. Like, we can take the same distribution, where I think it's 3 of these, so per 4. So we'll just do this, I guess, or we'll do this. Or actually, I have a 2-dose in here somewhere. I think it's in... Do I have a 2-dose? No, I don't. Whatever. We'll just we'll use this, and then 2 sharks. So by just using cheaper materials, instead of spending 833k and dying anyways, you're spending 254 and 45k and dying anyways. So if you're like really messing up a boss and just not getting it, by just using cheaper materials, you know, let's say you attempt Horacio 10 times an hour. You're only spending your 2.45 mil an hour plus your death costs versus 8.3 mil an hour and your death costs. So there's really no reason to use the more expensive stuff unless, one, you don't care about money, which, you know, there are people who are like that, or you're doing bosses that you're comfortable with and have guaranteed payoffs. So again, this is bosses like Virago, this is bosses like Rots, where you're guaranteed at least a mil a kill. I think Virago, if you're soloing or duoing, you're guaranteed a couple mil a kill. High in raid Zamorak, even mid in raid Zamorak, like between 100 and 300, you're getting like 4 to 6 mil a kill. Solak, you're getting a Grimoire page at every kill. So yeah, this video is going to be a little bit longer than the other ones, but I think it's really important to go over like why people use the food they use and what types of food you should be using, because a lot of these foods are way too expensive and not worth it. But yeah, hopefully this helps you guys out and saves you guys a little bit of money. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.